The First Descendant is a game that has a ton of stuff going on. And as you get in and you start playing, you're going to start discovering little tips and tricks, ways to do things more efficiently, ways to do things better. Any sort of looter shooter or grind-based game is going to have this type of metagame attached to it. Now, everything in this video are things that I discovered through my time playing the game after launch. Hopefully a lot of these tips and tricks are new to you. Hopefully they help make your journey through The First Descendant a little bit easier. Now, some of these are a little bit more in your face or basic, while other ones are more of like different sort of like movement hacks and things like that. Either way, I'm not looking to waste your guys' time, so let's get started with number 1. So this is a quick tip, one that's going to save you guys a little bit of time. In The First Descendant, if you fall from a certain height, you're going to enter a falling animation once you hit the ground, as you can see here. You kind of take a second to hit and then stand back up. Pretty annoying, but there's a way to get around this. So the way you can get around this is to literally just shoot as you're falling. Once you do that, you're gonna hit the ground, continue moving. You don't have to enter into that falling animation, hit the ground, do that whole thing. Another cool trick to save you guys a little bit of time is roll, reload, cancel. So if you're shooting and you need to reload, you can see the reload time can be a little long. If you shoot, hit reload, and start rolling, it's gonna automatically reload for you. As you can see there, went ahead and automatically reloaded again. So these longer reload times for these weapons, you can cut down drastically by shooting, hitting reload, and then rolling. You can see that we can reload our entire magazine really quickly. In The First Descendant, something you're going to be doing often is farming outposts. Outposts are a good source of shape stabilizers, modules, as well as random world drops and amorphous patterns. But one of the problems with outposts is they have a 5-minute cooldown whenever you go and complete them, which obviously gets in the way of you going and doing things and farming. But there is a way to bypass this initially. So when you go and you do an outpost, normally you're going to be in a public field. However, if we switch this over to a private field, we can get rid of this timer and bypass it. So what you want to do is you want to go ahead and move back to Albion. Once in Albion, we want to open up our world map and we want to go back to whichever outposts we're trying to bypass. So in this case, it's a Vespers one. So I'm going to open the world map. I'm going to click on Vespers and I'm going to switch this to private. Once I switch it to private, I'll head back to that same transporter that I was just at. And now when I open my map, you can see that this outpost no longer has a timer on it. I can go and complete it again, head back to Albion, switch back to public. By that time, the other one should be up and available, and you can continue to rinse and repeat this process. That way, you don't have to wait 5 minutes for every single outpost. Loadouts are another thing that I see a lot of people ask about in The First Descendant, and they absolutely exist. They're just called something a little different. So out on your inventory page, underneath your third weapon slot, you have this button called Preset. Clicking on this will allow you to switch between presets that you go and create. So by default, it's going to be completely empty. And if you click Save Current Settings, it's going to take whatever you have equipped across your reactor, components, weapons, your Descendant, and whatever setting they're currently on for modules. Because remember, you can have up to 3 different module preset settings, and it's going to save all of that in a snapshot. So if I want to switch to Asimo, for instance, I can select on my preset 2, I can click Apply Preset at the bottom, and then switch back out, and we can see here I have Asimo, as well as all of my weapons, whatever modules he has set up, his reactor, all of his external components, etc. If I want to switch back to my Freyna setup, then I can easily just go back to preset 1, click Apply, and I'm back to Freyna. So use this to make different kind of presets and builds and compilations, whatever you need for Void Intercept bosses, for farming, etc. Use your presets, people. It makes life way, way easier. Encrypted vaults are a great way to find rare materials. Things like energy activators, rare Descendant materials, rare upgrade materials, and sometimes even Descendant crafting materials. Now, encrypted vaults are these coffin-like objects that are out in the world. You can stumble across them. You can also find them by looking for these little digital footprints out here on the ground. Now, the way to find them is you just have to follow the sound that your Assieve emits whenever you're near them. So your Assieve is just the tab, right? If you're on console, I'm not sure what button it is, but it's just this thing here where you can identify certain things. So here we are at one of these digital footprints, and I'm gonna press tab, and you're going to hear a chime. Now I'm gonna be quiet so you can hear it. If I face this way, listen for that same sound. It sounds very different. So what you want to do is you want to follow the sound that we heard originally, this one right here. So we want to continue following that sound. So here's what an encrypted vault looks like. You want to follow that sound until you find this. Now, these can be up high, they can be down low, they can be behind staircases, they can be in caverns underground, they can be on platforms way up in the sky. So if you're walking and suddenly that tone changes to something different, then you've probably lost track. So you either need to go back to where you last heard the chime and look up, look down, look to the side, but just continue following that chime until you see this. Once you're here, you need to use something called a code analyzer. Once inside, there will be a quick mini game. This is an easy one, so you can see we're just clicking on our different buttons, and once you complete the mini game, you're going to get a rare material. We got negative ion particles. Now, these encrypted vaults come in different flavors. You have some that require regular code analyzers like we saw here. You have some that require precision code analyzers, which are like a medium rarity, and you have some that require an ultra precision analyzer, which is more of a high rarity. As you get higher in rarity, the mini game becomes more and more difficult, and you're going to have less and less time to actually complete the mini game. So you need to be on your toes and be ready to go in there, complete that thing. That way you can get the materials that you're after. So look out for these encrypted vaults, follow those digital footprints, and make sure to follow the chimes. So let's say you just got a brand new Descendant and you look, they're level 1. So you need to start leveling them up. That way you can, 1, unlock all of their skills, rank up their skills, but just make them more effective in combat. So you ask yourself, what's the best way that I can go out and start doing that? Well, number 1, above all and beyond, the best way to level up is going to be your special operations. So we're here in Albion, and here's the special operations terminal. It's right over here. So here's where you actually port into the city. It's just over here. And there's a specific one that we want to do, and that's the Kingston Defend Albion resource. So here you don't have to worry about too many different modifiers, but it's also how easy of a mission this is. All of the enemies come to you, you're defending a single point, and as they come to you, you wipe them out, and you're going to get a lot of experience. I think in about 10 minutes, I got 10 or 11 levels on from a fresh level 1 Descendant all the way up to level 11. And then after that, it just continued to level up. And it's just, it works so fast. So if you need to level up new Descendants, this is the best way to do it. Now, if you get bored of doing this, you can always go do missions, you can run dungeons, you can do all of the different things. But this is by far and away the best and most efficient way to get experience to level those folks up. This one's pretty simple and straightforward, but it's one that I think a lot of people still either don't know about or might not know where to find. So if you go and you click G on PC, or you open up your world map on your console, go to Access Info at the very top. This is going to be your directory. So everything that you kind of need is going to be out here. So here you can see, okay, I want to look at a particular weapon. Click Weapons. I want to figure out how to build Clairvoyance. You can click on Clairvoyance. It's going to show you how to build Clairvoyance. If you need the blueprint, for instance, then you can hover over the blueprint and look at Acquisition Info. This is going to show you where you can acquire this blueprint. We can do the same thing for nanotubes. Again, if you click on this, you can see where it comes from. We can see that, oh, it's actually built using research using these things. Okay, where do I find the nanotube blueprint? Hover over that, click F, and then here we can see where we can find the blueprint. You can do this with anything. So weapons, you can do it with modules. For instance, let's say you want to build an electric charge build for Bunny. You can click on acquisition info and see, oh, this is available through Executioner hard mode. So this is just a really useful directory of how you can find anything in the game, because this game has a ton of stuff built into it, a lot of layers. So being able to figure out where to go and how to spend your time is incredibly important, because you can spend it doing a ton of different stuff and get absolutely nowhere. So if you're somebody who's short on time and you want to be able to go and farm something specific, then go out here, figure out where to go and farm it and get started. Similar to the access tab, one thing that I see people struggling with is trying to progress through all of the different void intercepts. And one of the things that they don't necessarily pay a lot of attention to are two things. One, the resistance that you see over here. So we have chill resistance 1600, but then also the attribute resistance of the void intercept boss themselves. So we can see they're very weak against fire, very strong against chill, strong against toxic, and normal against electric. So going and fighting against the Dead Bride, for instance, you want to outfit your weapons to deal fire damage, or at least a percentage of fire damage, and you want to make sure your chill resistance is at or close to whatever it needs to be. And this isn't always chill. Sometimes it's toxic, sometimes it's electric. So you're just going to have to go and take a look at what exactly you need. Now, how do you go about doing all of these things? Well, that's going to be over in your modules. So out here on Thundercage, for instance, if you want to deal extra fire damage for the Dead Bride boss, then you can add a fire enhancement module to your weapon. As you go and you upgrade these, they're going to deal an additional amount of damage. So by default, you're looking at 8%. And this is for fire, electric, toxic, anything. They're going to start at 8%, and then it's going to go to 10%, all the way up to 30%. So if you have a fully maxed out enhancement module, you're going to deal 30% extra attack, whatever element it is, equal to your firearm attack. So that's definitely something to keep note of, and make sure that you are working within those resistances. You don't want to make life harder on yourself and go in with a full electric build when the Void Intercept boss has a very strong resistance to electric damage. It's just not going to work as well. So that's part one. Part two is actually out on your Descendant. You have different resistances. You can see here, we have cold antibody. This is chill resistance plus 1242. Now, you have different antibodies for all of the different elements out there. You have toxic, fire, just like you do with your enhancement modules on the weapons. As you go and you find these, you can take them to the module vendor and upgrade them. I would highly recommend upgrading all of them to 4 or 5. That way you have a ton of different resistance options. It is 10 module cost, but if you can find a matching module slot, it's not that big of a deal. But this is what you're going to have to do. For me, it's resistances, it's defense, it's HP. Those are the 3 things that I slot in first, and then I kind of build out my damage on the backside. That's how I do it. You can do it differently. You can kind of front load your damage first if you want, and then work on defenses. It's all about your playstyle and your preference. But I did want to make a little section of this video for this specifically, because I know people getting stuck on the Void Intercept bosses and they're not really sure what's happening. And most of the time I see it's because people aren't working with the different resistances that the bosses put out there. And that wraps this one up. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you learned at least 1 or 2 things to make your journey through the First Descendant a little bit easier. I have more videos on the horizon, but please let me know in the comment section below what videos you would like to see. What are you struggling with? What are some things you would like to know more about? Let me know. That way I can create some content for you guys. Thank you so much for watching. This has been Vulcan, and I'll talk to you guys next time.